Why is it that you can instantly tell when someone's angry, but solving 17 times 24 feels like climbing Everest? Glance at a picture of an angry woman. You don't decide to analyze her features. You don't deliberate. You just know, instantly, that she's angry. The recognition is automatic, effortless, almost as if your brain whispered the answer before you asked. Now, try to solve a different problem in your head. What's 17 times 24? Suddenly, everything changes. You feel a strain. Your muscles tense. Your pupils dilate. You have to retrieve a program from memory, follow steps, and hold information. This is mental work, deliberate, orderly, and slow. Two very different modes of thinking are at play. These two experiences reveal the two fundamental ways our minds operate. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman describes them as two characters in a drama, two agents that live in our minds. He calls them System 1 and System 2. System 1 is the fast one. It operates automatically with little to no effort and no sense of voluntary control. It's the part of you that detects hostility in a voice, completes the phrase bread and butter, or drives a car on an empty road. It's your intuition, your gut feeling. It's constantly generating impressions, feelings, and suggestions. It's smooth, silent, and often invisible. Until it makes you misjudge a stranger's intentions or fall for an optical illusion. Then there's System 2. This is the slow, effortful one. It's the part of your mind that allocates attention to demanding tasks like complex calculations, planning a budget, resisting dessert, or solving a tough math problem. System 2 is who we think we are. It's our conscious, reasoning self that makes choices and decides what to do. It believes it's where the action is. But here's the twist. What you think is the driver's seat is often just the passenger, nodding along while someone else steers. The real author of many of our judgments is the automatic System 1. The division of labor between them is incredibly efficient. Most of the time, your life is run by System 1. It offers up suggestions, impressions, intuitions, intentions. And when things go smoothly, your lazy System 2 just adopts them with little or no modification. You believe your impressions. You act on your desires. It works well most of the time. But when System 1 runs into difficulty, when it encounters something that violates its model of the world, like a cat that suddenly barks, it calls on System 2 for help, for a more detailed and specific analysis to solve the problem. This quiet collaboration is happening every moment you're awake. But because System 1's work is silent and automatic, we often have no idea it's even happening. We identify with the deliberate effort of System 2, but we fail to see how much of what System 2 thinks and does actually originates from the rapid, intuitive, and often invisible suggestions of System 1. That gap between what you expect, that you're rational, and the reality that you're mostly on autopilot, is what makes Kahneman's insights so powerful. This means countless decisions we make, from trusting a stranger to choosing a stock, are shaped by an ancient, fast-thinking machine that operates just beyond the reach of our conscious awareness. It's an illusion of control, where the silent partner is often making the most important calls. So, the next time you get a gut feeling or a snap judgment, pause. Ask yourself, is it really you in control? Or the silent autopilot steering without permission? Most of the time, it serves you well. But here's the catch. When that autopilot stumbles, System 2 steps in. And that's when things get complicated. Because System 2 works hard, but it's also lazy. It avoids effort unless absolutely necessary. And that raises the next big question. What does it actually cost us to use our attention and mental energy? In Chapter 2, Kahneman shows that thinking isn't just tiring, it literally strains our bodies, drains our focus, and forces us to budget our mental effort like money. To really see it at its limits, imagine a task called Add 1. You're shown 4 digits, say 5294. You then have to report back a new string where each digit is incremented by 1, 6305. It sounds simple, but doing it while keeping a steady rhythm is an all-out mental sprint. You feel your brain heat up like sprinting on a treadmill made of numbers. And this sprint causes real, measurable physical strain. Someone looking closely at your eyes while you tackled this problem would see your pupils dilate. Your heart rate would climb. Your body would tense up. This isn't just in your head, it's a full-body workout. This is because focused attention is a finite resource. You have a limited budget of mental energy, and when you pay attention, you're spending it. The electricity meter in your brain is spinning wildly, and once you go over budget, you fail. Your mind guards the most important task and blinds you to everything else. You couldn't compute 17 times 24 while making a left turn into dense traffic. System 2 can run a marathon when forced, but most of the time, it would rather sit on the couch, lazily nodding along to whatever System 1 tells it. Its default is low-effort mode, just monitoring and coasting, only mobilizing when absolutely necessary. But when it does step in, the strain is real, and you can feel it in your body. Think about walking. At a comfortable stroll, your mind is free to wander, to solve problems, to create. But now, speed up. Break into a sprint. Try to solve a complex math problem in your head. Impossible, right? Your ability to think coherently just vanishes. That's because your deliberate, conscious mind, what we call System 2, is running on a limited budget of effort. And like any budget, it can be overdrawn. This brings us to a state called ego depletion. Imagine you're asked to remember a list of 7 digits, a demanding task. While your attention is focused, you're offered a choice, a sinful chocolate cake or a virtuous fruit salad. The evidence is clear. You're far more likely to grab the cake. Why? Because your System 2, the part of you that says, I should eat the fruit, is busy. It's been depleted. So your impulsive, automatic System 1, which has a serious sweet tooth, takes the wheel. This isn't just about willpower. All forms of voluntary effort, cognitive, emotional, physical, draw from the same shared pool of mental energy. If you have to force yourself to stifle your reaction to an upsetting film, you'll later perform worse on a test of physical stamina. If you resist the temptation of freshly baked cookies, you'll give up sooner on a difficult puzzle. The effort of will is tiring. And this mental energy is more than a metaphor. It's fueled by glucose. When you're engaged in difficult reasoning or self-control, your blood sugar level literally drops. The most disturbing demonstration of this comes from a study of Israeli parole judges. They spend entire days reviewing cases. The default decision is denial. When the judges started their day, right after a food break, they were refreshed and the parole approval rate was around 65%. But as the hours passed and their mental energy waned, the rate steadily dropped, hitting nearly 0 right before their next meal. Tired, hungry judges don't have the energy for the difficult decision to grant parole. They fall back on the easy, default option. The fate of prisoners was determined not just by the facts of their case, but by the time of their hearing. This brings us to a simple puzzle that reveals the profound laziness of our System 2. A bat and a ball cost $1.10 in total. The bat cost $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? For most people, an answer comes to mind instantly. 10 cents. It's intuitive, it's appealing, and it's wrong. If the ball is 10 cents, the bat, add $1 more, is $1.10. The total is $1.20. The correct answer is 5 cents. A huge percentage of students at universities like Harvard and Princeton get this wrong. It's not because they can't do the math. It's because their System 2 didn't bother to check. It accepted the easy, intuitive answer from System 1. It took the path of least effort. Our conscious, reasoning self is not the tireless hero of our own story. It's more of a supporting character, and a lazy one at that, happy to endorse the gut feelings and quick suggestions of its impulsive partner. This has consequences that stretch from the dessert we choose to the justice we receive. It shows that being intelligent is not the same thing as being rational. Rationality is not just about brain power, it's the willingness to engage that lazy controller, to resist the easy answer, and to do the hard work of actually thinking. But while that controller often takes the easy way out, another system in your mind never rests. It works silently, constantly stitching together images, words, and feelings, creating links and stories without asking your permission. To see it in action, consider just two words: bananas, vomit. In the second it took you to hear that, a lot happened. You pictured unpleasant images, your face may have twisted in disgust. Your mind automatically created a tiny causal story where bananas made someone sick. This wasn't a choice. It was an operation of your mind's associative machine, a vast network where every idea is linked to countless others. This machine is always running, silently connecting causes to effects, things to their properties, and ideas to other ideas. This process is called priming, and it goes far beyond words. In one classic experiment, university students were asked to assemble sentences using words associated with the elderly, like Florida, forgetful, or wrinkle. Afterwards, they were timed walking down a hallway. Without any awareness of what had happened, they walked significantly more slowly than students who hadn't been primed with those words. Thinking about old age made them act old. This ideomotor effect works in reverse too. Forcing yourself to smile can actually make you feel a bit happier. This hidden machinery influences us in profound ways. Reminders of money can make us more individualistic and less willing to help others. Thinking about a past shame makes us more likely to buy soap. Our minds are constantly being guided by cues we don't even notice. So how do we know if this machine is running smoothly? We feel it. Psychologists call this feeling cognitive ease. It's a signal that things are going well. No threats, no major news, no need to mobilize effort. Cognitive ease feels good, and many things can trigger it. A sentence in a clear font, a message you've heard before, even being in a good mood. But this feeling can be a trap. It creates powerful illusions. When a lie is repeated often enough, it starts to feel familiar. That familiarity registers as cognitive ease. Your brain misinterprets that ease as a signal of truth. Authoritarian regimes and marketers have known this for centuries. Familiarity is not easily distinguished from truth. This is how the illusion of truth is born. Similarly, a name you've seen recently will feel familiar if you see it again, leading to an illusion of remembering. You might mistake that familiar name for a celebrity's, just because processing it felt easy. We are biased to believe whatever is easy for our minds to process. If ease makes us credulous and lazy, what does its opposite, cognitive strain, do? Imagine being asked to solve a difficult brain teaser. Now imagine that puzzle is printed in a faint, blurry, hard-to-read font. You'd think that would make it harder, but the opposite happens. People solve the puzzle better. The cognitive strain from the bad font acts as an alarm. It signals that something is off, waking up your more vigilant, analytical mind to check the lazy, intuitive answer your brain first offered. The strain forces you to slow down, to think harder. Our mental life is governed by the silent push and pull. Our brain's associative machine jumps to conclusions, building coherent stories from scattered bits of information. It uses a simple feeling of ease as a shortcut for what is true, safe, and good. This allows us to navigate a complex world with incredible efficiency. But it also means we often operate on a comforting, coherent illusion built on the path of least resistance. Sometimes the only way to break the spell and see reality more clearly is to embrace a little strain. And once you start paying attention, you notice that this machine isn't just smoothing over the present, it's constantly shaping your sense of what's normal. It doesn't take much for the familiar to feel inevitable and the strange to become ordinary. Your mind is constantly building a model of what's normal in your world. It does this so well that a single strange event can quickly become the new normal. See a car on fire by the side of the road one Sunday, and you're surprised. See another one in the same spot the next Sunday, and you're much less surprised. Your mind has already created a new category, the spot where cars catch fire. This storyteller inside you is obsessed with finding causes. It will see bullies and heroes in simple moving shapes and impose intention on random events. It's so hungry for a coherent narrative that it can easily trick you. Ask someone how many animals Moses took on the ark, and they'll often miss the simple fact that it was Noah. In the biblical context, Moses just feels right. This machine for making sense of the world works by jumping to conclusions. It resolves ambiguity instantly without ever letting you know there was another option. And it's gullible. It has to first believe something just to understand it. Unbelieving is hard work, reserved for your slower, more deliberate mind. Its most powerful rule is what you see is all there is. It takes whatever limited information is available and weaves it into the most coherent story possible, completely ignoring what it doesn't know. Paradoxically, this means knowing less can make for a better, more convincing story, because there are fewer pieces to fit into the puzzle. This is the engine of the halo effect. If we think a CEO is charismatic, we'll see his plans as brilliant. Our storyteller despises inconsistency. It paints people who do good things as entirely good and those who do bad things as entirely bad, making the world seem more predictable than it really is. But how does it produce these judgments so quickly? It performs a stunning trick: substitution. When faced with a difficult question, your mind secretly answers an easier one instead. This happens so deep in your perceptual system, you can't stop it. Look at a drawing of 3 figures in a corridor drawn in perspective. You're asked which 2D figure is biggest on the page, but your brain, seeing the 3D cues, substitutes a different question: which person is tallest in the real world? And it gives a powerful, illusory answer. This happens with abstract judgments too. Ask college students, how happy are you with your life? And their answer is unrelated to their dating life. But ask them, how many dates did you have last month, before asking how happy they are? And suddenly, the two answers are tightly linked. Their mind substitutes the vast, difficult question of life satisfaction with the easier, more immediate question: how do I feel about my love life right now? This is the affect heuristic in action. We answer, what do I think about this, by consulting, how do I feel about it? Your anger at financial predators will determine how they should be punished. Your fondness for a technology will make you see its benefits as high and its risks as low. This inner storyteller is the secret author of many of your choices. It operates in silence, spinning plausible narratives from scattered evidence, substituting hard questions with easy feelings, and presenting it all to you as objective truth. It's a machine for creating meaning, but the meaning it creates is simpler, tidier, and far more certain than the world it's trying to describe. And most of the time, you are a stranger to its work, a conscious mind taking credit for a story it didn't even write. But how far will this storyteller go? To see it in action, consider this mystery. Researchers looked at the incidence of kidney cancer across every county in the United States. The counties with the very lowest rates were mostly rural, sparsely populated, and politically traditional. What explains this? The clean air, the fresh food? Before you settle on a story, consider this. The counties with the very highest cancer rates were also mostly rural, sparsely populated, and politically traditional. The cause wasn't lifestyle, it was statistics. Small populations simply produce more extreme results, both high and low, just by the luck of the draw. But our minds hate chance. We crave causes. We see a basketball player sink a few shots, and we invent a story called the hot hand, a streak of pure skill. But often, it's just the ebb and flow of randomness. We instinctively believe in a law of small numbers, jumping to sweeping conclusions from tiny scraps of evidence, because our brains are wired to find a pattern, even in static. And this hunger for causes doesn't stop with patterns. It makes us strangely suggestible. Imagine being asked to guess the percentage of African nations in the UN. But first, you watch a Wheel of Fortune land on either 10 or 65. That completely random, useless number will massively skew your answer. People who saw 10 guessed low, around 25%. Those who saw 65 guessed high, at 45%. This is the anchoring effect. An initial number, any number, becomes a mental anchor we struggle to move away from. It's why a high asking price for a house makes the house seem more valuable. It's why a supermarket sign saying, limit 12 per person, makes you buy more soup than a sign that says, no limit. Your judgment latches onto the number and gets stuck close by, whether the number is meaningful or not. So a random number can sway us. But what about ideas charged with emotion and vividness? This brings us to the availability heuristic. We judge how common something is not by how often it actually happens, but by how easily examples spring to mind. It's why we worry more about a dramatic plane crash than the silent statistical threat of diabetes, even though one is thousands of times deadlier. The key isn't how many examples you can think of, but the feeling of ease. If you're asked to recall 12 times you were assertive, the struggle to come up with the last few will make you feel less assertive than if you'd only been asked for 6 easy examples. The mental strain tells a more powerful story than the facts you just produced. And this all culminates in what's called the affect heuristic, a simple truth that our feelings often write the facts. If a technology feels good, we judge its benefits as high and its risks as low. If it feels scary, we see high risks and few benefits. This emotional logic creates a dangerous feedback loop in public life. A minor risk gets media attention. The vivid story makes it feel more common and frightening. Public fear becomes its own story, generating more media coverage. This is an availability cascade, where a small threat can spiral into national panic, completely distorting our priorities. We end up legislating against phantom fears while ignoring bigger, quieter dangers. It's a stark reminder that our brains aren't calculators, they're storytellers, always searching for a simple, coherent narrative in a complex, statistical world. And being aware of that is the first step toward not being fooled by the stories we tell ourselves. But how does this bias show up in the real world? Let's meet Tom. He's a graduate student, described as a neat and tidy soul with a passion for detail. Is he more likely to be studying computer science or humanities? Most of us instantly say computer science. He just fits the stereotype. But this ignores a simple fact. There are vastly more students in humanities. The odds are stacked against him being in the tiny computer science program. We substitute a hard question, what's the probability, with an easier one. What does he look like? We judge by resemblance or representativeness, and we confidently ignore the numbers staring us in the face. This isn't just a mistake. It's a mental shortcut with 2 major flaws. First, it makes us eager to predict rare events from the flimsiest of evidence. Second, we become shockingly insensitive to the quality of that evidence. Even if we're told the description of Tom is unreliable, we use it anyway. Our brain just grabs the story and runs. This love for a good story can lead us into a complete logical trap. Consider Linda. She's 31, single, outspoken, and was a passionate activist in college. Now, which is more probable? 1, Linda is a bank teller, or 2, Linda is a bank teller and is active in the feminist movement. An overwhelming majority, even statistically trained students, choose option 2. But that's impossible. The group of feminist bank tellers is a small part of the larger group of all bank tellers. By adding a detail, you can only make an event less probable. So why do we get it so wrong? Because feminist bank teller creates a richer, more plausible story. It fits the description of Linda perfectly. The story feels so coherent, so representative, that we mistake its plausibility for probability. This is the less is more effect. The more detailed and therefore less likely scenario paradoxically feels more likely. Our intuition is so swayed by the compelling narrative that it tramples over a basic rule of logic, even when the two options are side by side. So, what's the deep-seated reason for this? Why do stories and stereotypes consistently overpower cold statistics? It's because our minds are fundamentally built to find causes, not to calculate odds. Imagine a hit-and-run accident at night. 85% of the cabs in the city are green, 15% are blue. A witness, who is 80% reliable, says the cab was blue. What's the probability it was blue? Most people ignore the 85% base rate and just say 80%. The statistic feels abstract, irrelevant. But watch what happens if we rephrase it. What if we say the two cab companies are equal in size, but the green company's drivers are reckless, causing 85% of all cab accidents? Suddenly, everyone uses that information. Why? Because it's no longer just a statistic. It's a causal story. It creates a stereotype. Green drivers are dangerous. That's something our brain can work with. A story about a person's traits. We'll latch on to any information that helps build a coherent narrative, but we'll ignore abstract data that doesn't. We are wired to ask why, not how many. And this relentless search for causes, this preference for a tidy story over the messy truth of statistics, defines how we see and misunderstand the world. And sometimes the stories we tell ourselves feel so convincing that even experts fall for them. Kahneman once told a group of Israeli Air Force flight instructors that praise for good performance works better than punishment for mistakes. One of the most senior instructors stood up and said, essentially, "With all due respect, you're wrong." He explained, "Often I'll praise a cadet for a perfect maneuver. The next time they try it, they do worse. But when I scream at a cadet for a bad one, they almost always do better on the next attempt. So punishment works and praise doesn't." It was one of the most exciting moments of Kahneman's career because the instructor was absolutely right about what he saw and completely wrong about why. What he'd discovered wasn't a secret of motivation. It was a fundamental law of statistics called regression to the mean. Think about it. Any performance is a mix of skill and luck. A cadet only gets praised for an exceptionally good maneuver, one that was likely a combination of their real skill plus a healthy dose of good luck. The next time, their skill is the same, but that burst of good luck probably won't be, so their performance will naturally drift back down toward their average. It regresses. The opposite is also true. A cadet gets screamed at for an unusually awful maneuver, one that was likely their skill hampered by some bad luck. The next time, their skill is the same, but the bad luck is gone. Their performance naturally improves, climbing back toward their average. The instructor thought his yelling caused the improvement, when in reality, it was just the inevitable evening out of random chance. Life's feedback in this way is perverse. It statistically punishes us for being nice and rewards us for being nasty. This effect is everywhere. We just invent stories to explain it. Take the Sports Illustrated jinx, the idea that an athlete who appears on the cover is doomed to have a bad season. It's not a curse. To get on the cover, an athlete has to have an extraordinary season, one that probably involved a lot of luck. The following season, they're more likely to have just a very good normal season. We see the drop and invent a story about pressure and overconfidence. Or consider this statement. Highly intelligent women tend to marry men who are less intelligent than they are. This sounds fascinating and sparks all sorts of complex psychological explanations. but it's mathematically the same as saying the correlation between the intelligence of spouses isn't a perfect match. Since it isn't a perfect one-to-one match, an extreme score on one side will, on average, be paired with a less extreme score on the other. It's a statistical inevitability, not a social drama. Our minds are built to find causes. We crave simple, coherent stories. The idea that a striking event, like a sudden improvement after being yelled at, doesn't have a direct cause, but is just the noise of randomness settling down, is deeply unsatisfying. But the world is messier and more random than our storytelling minds want to admit. So the next time you see an extreme performance, a spectacular success, or a dismal failure, remember the invisible force pulling everything back to the middle. It's not a story, it's just regression. Life presents us with countless moments to predict the future. Here's a simple one. Julie is currently a senior in college. She read fluently when she was 4 years old. What's her grade point average? Take a second. An answer probably came to mind. Likely something high, maybe a 3.7 or a 3.8. It feels right. But this intuitive prediction, as natural as it is, reveals a fundamental flaw in how our minds work. Our minds automatically construct a story. The story goes, precocious reading in childhood means high academic talent, which means a high GPA in college. Your brain performs a neat little trick called intensity matching. It gauges the impressiveness of the evidence, reading at age 4 is very impressive, and matches it to an equally impressive outcome. The problem is, this process is guaranteed to be wrong. It completely ignores a powerful force in the universe, regression to the mean. An extraordinary performance, like Julie's early reading, is almost always a combination of talent and luck. She's talented, sure, but she was probably also lucky. Lucky with her development, her environment, her teachers. And luck, by its very nature, doesn't stick around. Her performance over time is likely to drift closer to the average. It will still be good, but probably not as exceptional as that first data point suggested. Our intuition, however, doesn't account for this. It draws a straight line from a single extreme event into the future. It gives us predictions that are far too confident and far too extreme because it builds the best possible story from the evidence it sees and ignores the vast uncertainty it doesn't. So how do we tame these flawed predictions? They're the 4-step mental correction. First, start with a baseline. Before you knew anything about Julie, what would you predict for a random college senior's GPA? Let's say it's 3.2. That's your anchor in reality. Second, make your intuitive prediction, the one that came to mind instantly, the 3.8. Third, and this is the crucial part, estimate the actual connection. How much does reading age really predict college GPA? The correlation is far from perfect. Let's be generous and say it's about 30%. Finally, adjust. Move 30% of the distance from the baseline of 3.2 toward your intuitive guess of 3.8. Your new corrected prediction is about a 3.4. This number feels less exciting. It feels less certain, but it is far more likely to be accurate. And this invisible pull shapes more than just stories we tell about others. It quietly warps the predictions we make about the future. This corrective process is hard work. It requires us to fight our own mind. Following our gut is just easier, more pleasant. And honestly, moderating our predictions robs us of the chance to ever call a truly extreme outcome, to have that satisfying, I knew it moment when a startup becomes the next Google. Unbiased predictions rarely guess the outlier. They live in the land of the probable. This is why we resist it. We prefer the simple, coherent story where talent is everything and luck is a footnote. Imagine you have to hire someone. You have 2 candidates. Kim gave a brilliant interview. She wowed everyone, but she has almost no real-world track record. Jane, on the other hand, has 3 years of solid, productive work, but her interview was just fine. Your intuition screams to hire Kim. She's the star, but Kim is a small sample size. Her brilliant performance is more likely to be an extreme event, a product of talent and a lot of luck on that specific day. Jane is the larger, more reliable sample. Her performance is less likely to be a fluke. Taming your intuition means recognizing that the dazzling flash is often just that, a flash. The real work is learning to see the value in the steady, proven performer, even when they don't tell as good a story. If this shifted the way you think about predictions, I'd love for you to like the video and subscribe. It helps these ideas reach more curious minds. And if you're wondering what can truly outlast luck, talent, and the pullback to the average, the answer is habits. In my earlier video on atomic habits, we explore how small, consistent actions quietly compound into extraordinary results. It's a perfect complement to what you've just heard. So when you're ready, give it a watch. You may find that the smallest choices are the ones that shape the biggest outcomes.